Good evening and welcome to Anime-Zing Radio here on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I'm your host, Doug Engler. Joining me as always in the co-host seat are our good friends Angela Rose
Hello.
and Darren Starling.
Yellow. Excuse me. Yellow.
We want to remind everybody that Anime-Zing Radio is brought to you tonight by Home Circle Media for the latest and greatest in anime gear, everything from pens, pencil, stationery, and officially licensed art books. Be sure to check out homecirclemedia.com today or look for them at an upcoming convention near you. We're also brought to you tonight by Casey Fox. For all of your artwork, cosplay, and commission needs, be sure to check out Casey Fox. That's KAYCIFOXX on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We're also brought to you tonight by Darren's Landscaping Company, Triple S Lawn Care. If you're down in the Raleigh, North Carolina area and you need some TLC for your lawn, be sure to check out Darren, and he would be more than happy to give you a quote. Good price, fair competition, excellent work.
Thank you.
We are excited tonight. It's been a little bit since the last time we had a guest on the show, but this gentleman is someone that we've come to know pretty well over the last couple of years. Last time he was on with us, he was a guest co-host for the Josie McCoy interview we did for Genshin Impact, and we are excited to have him as our featured guest tonight. We are excited to have Ric from Nerd Urbanity joining us. Hello, Ric.
Hi, thank you for having me back.
Oh, of course. We had so much fun chatting with you last time that you were on. Even Josie was like, man, that guy was great. You know, I've talked to him since then, and we're excited to have you back on.
You guys are awesome. Josie was a gentleman and a scholar, and you guys are fantastic. Thank you so much.
Oh, not a problem. And hello to everybody in the chat, as I think Angela was just about to say.
Yep, got beaten to it.
Hello to Ross, John. Ross Lux out there, John Knight, None Your Business. Great to see everybody in there. I hope everybody's having a great weekend. Hopefully you're staying dry on this wet weekend up here in northeastern area. I just think the whole eastern seaboard, because Darren had it on Friday, Saturday. We had it in Pennsylvania yesterday, today.
And it was raining today up in New England, but, you know, it's New England, so rain kind of goes with the territory.
So for our new viewers out there, Ric, that maybe they missed the show when you were last on with us, tell everybody a little bit about yourself and what you do.
Hi. Well, I'm Ric. I live up here in Vermont. I'm in New England too, so it was a nice cold day up here as well, but fall is in full swing, so it's awesome. I am a purveyor of collectible toys, both new and vintage, and I was able to meet you guys at one of the conventions that we had up here, or at least the first one that they had, and it was fantastic. You guys were amazingly detailed in what you guys did, and I was more than lucky and more than happy to win a slot to sit and just nerd out, geek out with you guys. But yeah, I sell toys, I sell collectibles. I've been doing it online for a couple of years now, and I started out selling at a flea market some years back, and just grew to be able to open up my own shop now.
That's awesome. And, it was fun to get a chance to meet you at Rail City Fan Fest last year. Small little convention that, I promoted the crap out of because I sponsored them. I took the big chance. I said, let's sponsor them, donate some prizes. We'll see what happens. And, live streaming from the conventions, and Angela can vouch when we live stream from a con, we get a lot of interesting interactions with the attendees. And, we also are a very big advocate for promoting the people at these events, which, of course, with Ric being a vendor, we wanted to have him come by and showcase some of the goods that he sells and tell people more about, his business, as we did with all the other vendors there. And I have to say, you're just such a fun guy. Like, when I see that you're at a convention that we're looking at going to, it's like, that's a must stop for me. I have to come by and say hi.
Thank you so much. I mean, I am a massive anime fan, and so seeing you guys there at the convention, especially when you guys were able to bring some talent to this last one, which was
that was That was-
I just finally got this opened. It's up on our shelf. Obviously, we're in the process of moving when we saw you last, and finally got a new home.
That's awesome.
You know,
Congratulations.
Christy.
She was phenomenal to meet.
That was just watching everybody interact at some of the smaller conventions really is just awe-inspiring. And I'm gonna give a shout out Ross in the chat. His niece was born. Congratulations.
Congratulations,
And
Ross.
hopefully mom and baby are doing well. Are healthy,
awesome.
happy. Yay. And question for you, Rick, from John Knight. Do you collect anime Blu-rays and DVDs?
I do. I do collect anime Blu-rays and DVDs. Matter of fact, the first set I collected was the DBZ box set from back in the day. I think it was when Goku was going Super Saiyan. So for about 12 episodes, watching him scream before he transformed. But yes, I do collect a number of them. I want to say one of the last ones I collected was another older one, because I'm into the, now I guess it's considered vintage, like the older sets, like what was it? It was DBZ. I also collected Brotherhood from the anime. What is that one with
Full Metal
Alphonse?
Alchemist.
Full Metal
Alchemist Brotherhood.
Yes, but I the tin sets. Those are the ones that I like to collect more than anything, because they have more of a presence, especially on a shelf, because those things, they really stand up. They're very big conversation starters.
And hello to Timothy Lucas, a karmic evening to you as well. And hello to Story Comic. Timothy says that sadly he hardly watches them anymore, but he has a decent collection of DVDs. I do too. Unfortunately, they're still all in storage.
I think
and mine are still shoved in my closet, as you saw a few weeks ago.
My limited collection, as far as anime goes, I don't have a lot. The highlight is I use the term loosely, box set, Serial Experiments Lane. Basically, it was already out of print. The store had a single copy of each of the 4 DVDs and basically shrink wrapped it together and sold it as a box set.
Touching base on that, when I see there are some places that sell like big packages of anime, whenever I see that, especially with anime or manga, I'm very happy that it has more of a presence now in the mainstream. However, I do get a little upset because it's a really I think underrated art form that deserves a whole lot more praise for its contributions to mainstream. I mean, because there's so many movies, there's so many TV shows that take a lot of cues from both anime and manga, and they put those in their films and do not give the proper, I guess, reference. I guess if you that's the best way
And
to
I
say
feel
it,
like
to it.
I feel like traveling overseas. I've seen more, like in Europe, I've seen multiple stores that were literally dedicated to anime and manga with not as much else. They were listed as hobby shops, but it was like the split was more like 80-20 versus here where it's
Like
at best 50-50.
Yeah.
Unless you can find a specific like anime dedicated store, which
Right,
there are
but
a few around.
there's a few, but they're few and far between.
Yeah.
Shout out to our friends at Black Knight Anime Games and More, because that was one of those stores. I miss going there. I spent so much money there, though. Oh my god! If I went there, I usually had like $100 or $200 to spend, and I would walk out of there with at least a figure, if not multiple.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm supposed to be dedicating, funds to my business, and every now and again, I just have to splurge. unfortunately, it's a hobby where you can get lost in. Really,
I mean,
fast.
I concur.
fun story about when I first met Rick at Rail City last year. He didn't even have everything set up. He still had like some loose figures and stuff in a box. And I looked in the box, just seeing what he had, because it doesn't take me long to set up for my booth. So I'm looking through and I saw yellow hair. That was all I saw, and this was yellow hair. I said,
Yes.
"Is that darkness?
Yes.
Is that darkness from True Love Ruin?" I pulled it out and I went, "Oh my god." I was like, "How much is this?" And you're like, "Well, I got to check and everything like that." And that was the figure I told you about, Darren, that I called it without seeing the face, without seeing anything else but yellow hair in a fist. And I knew exactly who it was.
I remember this story.
And I think you were kind of shocked that I picked it out like that too.
Very quickly, you knew exactly what it was as soon as before I pulled it out of the box.
And that is still the only True Love Ru figure I own.
Apparently, while we're on animes and stuff, it has been confirmed that starting in January is season 2 of Banished from the Hero's Party.
Wow. Okay.
Which means I need to go back and watch that.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I love that anime.
That was a great one. And I also told that story, Rick, to Caitlin Barr, who voiced Golden Darkness.
Oh, wow.
So I have her autograph on Golden Darkness piece.
Met
her at Kineticon.
Very jealous.
Last year. Because we didn't go this year. So yeah, last year.
Because this year Kineticon happened while you were moving.
Yeah, it literally happened the weekend before. The weekend that Kineticon was going on, I had driven from Plattsburgh, New York to Reading, Pennsylvania to find an apartment.
Now, on the topic of conventions, I had to ask, I mean, what do you guys prefer, the larger conventions or the smaller conventions? I mean, I know, there's like everybody has something to give in each convention, but
I'm actually going to give the cop-out answer and say it depends on the convention. Because there are some large ones that I really enjoy, but some of the smaller ones give a completely different experience.
And personally, I've never been to a small convention because the smallest one I've gone to, the average attendance is at least 10 to 13,000. So that doesn't classify as small, I don't think.
No. I personally, I prefer small to mid-sized cons. Give me 500 to 2,000 people for a 2-day weekend con.
Like, you can't really compare something like Rail City to something like PAX East. It's there, and
it's two totally different beasts.
Exactly, and I use those because very opposite ends of the spectrum, but I enjoyed both experiences for very, very different reasons.
I think you're on point with that. I mean, because I've worked at or been a vendor at the Pensacon over in Florida, and then the MegaCon also that's in Florida down in Orlando. And with the Pensacon, I was able to get, of course, make good money, but it's very rare opportunity to meet some of the talent unless they come and they see us. Except, this a couple of times that I've been there, they had the reunion for Star Trek, the original cast. I got a chance to meet Jason Mewes, who came down and tried to get me to give him some stuff for free. But then I went to a smaller con called the Geekonomicon that was in Oklahoma City. And all the talent was upstairs, but they moved them all down into the room that was right next to me. And I got to meet like the English voice cast of One Punch Man, and Grimlock's voice from Transformers and Bumblebee and people from Game of Thrones. And with that smaller con, they were able to get up and they were able to walk around. And I sat there for an hour and a half talking to the voice of Bumblebee from my childhood. We just, he just went over because he was also the voice of Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends. And so I got a chance to just sit there and just talk to him for an hour and a half. And it was just an amazing experience getting to know somebody who was the voice of my youth. So, it is a different scenarios, but I do got to say, for me, I kind of prefer the smaller ones because I do get the opportunity, as much as I want to see people, to really get to know some of the folks that are there and actually have an opportunity to talk to them rather than, I guess, squirreling at every site at some of the larger cons.
I think it sums it up like the way I view it is comparing small mid-sized con where it's not as many people. They still have good, decent to good talent that they can bring in as guests. Not as many as a large con, obviously, but you might have 1 to 4 or 5 decent named voice actors or guests, and you're able, as an attendee or even as a vendor, to go and interact and network a lot easier. You can just talk to people and stuff like that. If you're looking for specific things, like if you're interested in finding merchandise or stuff like that, go to an Anime Boston, a Kineticon, San Diego Comic-Con. Go to some of these larger cons because you'll still have a great experience, have a better chance at finding maybe that rare figure that you've been looking for, or find an artist who's got some art of a character that may not be as mainstream or things like that, because there's a better chance of finding an artist when they have 100 as opposed to 40. So they both have their plus and weaknesses.
But Angela, you definitely had a point where it depends on who's there. So if they had been, and I will say some of the talent there wasn't.
I did see that.
And I will say it was like some of the people that have been on Heroes that were there. It does depend on the people that are there. If they had been crummy individuals, I definitely wouldn't have had as much fun.
Exactly. I mean, sometimes with sometimes it's all about luck of the draw.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It is.
Like I ended up, some event way back in the day, I ended up just nerding out talking to somebody. And then afterwards, somebody told me who it was. And I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Because I didn't know that's who they were. I just knew him as this cool dude that I had something in common with.
Yeah.
And in the chat, John Knight says that next year will mark the 25th anniversary of the Funimation dub of Dragon Ball Z. And also this year marks 26th anniversary of Toonami.
And a shout out from Timothy in the chat that Nerd Urbanity provides competitively priced mainstream action figures and hard to find nostalgic pieces of yesteryear.
Aw. Thank you. That was really cool.
I like them.
We got some of the greatest fans that tune in every week, and I say it a lot that we love our fans, but we really have an awesome fan base, and we keep growing it slowly, but we keep growing, and it's so happy to get more people.
Since we started doing a after the fact audio upload of every episode, we've gotten a global fan base. Which is, it just blows my mind that we have people outside of this country that actually listen to us ramble about everything.
Now,
if I can get somebody to listen to me ramble for 5 minutes, I'm lucky.
Now, getting back to your store with Nerd Urbanity, and for those of you who are watching or listening, check out Nerd Urbanity. That's NERDURBANITY.com, and check out all the stuff that he has on the website. A lot of awesome stuff, like Timothy said, a lot of nostalgia. You look back at some of the old action figures that like I grew up with in the 80s, and even before that, you've been able to bring back some of those amazing things. Plus, getting into the anime, as I showed earlier, the Alicia Frieden Dendroid, which you so graciously surprised us with at Rail City, which you still did. I still say you didn't have to do that.
No,
But-
you guys are amazing.
But Karma comes back, and for the second year in a row, we had a giveaway that we did, and Rick won the giveaway. I forget what it was. I think it was a signed print,
Yes, I
and
did.
and Rick won that. It wasn't scammed or anything like that. There were people at the table that saw me randomize the wheel quite a
They
bit.
weren't happy.
Karma.
Here's the thing. Look at them.
So Timothy, you were there.
Which is
For those who don't understand the joke, Timothy Lucas is a longtime listener. Back in our early days on AZ Radio, he went by Karma Cookie. So when we say Karma was there, or Timothy, you were there, that was Karma.
Awesome.
Oh, God.
they probably even have air fryer directions.
So it was a lot of fun, and I know that Christy had a lot of fun at Rail City as well.
She was awesome.
I definitely chose the right person to help bring this, like a dream I had for many years, come true. Christy was just absolutely amazing, and
And she was so down to earth, so much fun to just chill with.
She was kind. She was patient. She was very personable, and that's what I found most about her, is that she was very personable.
Why is my table crooked?
And just watching her interact with
Yes.
the fans,
That's why I was like, I
that
don't know why
was
that's like that.
huge. And I think that, I believe that
It's one of
came,
those weird little things like this.
that was on the live stream.
Doesn't bother me. Just was curious.
No, I did vacuum yesterday because I vacuumed.
Yeah,
there 'cause it was
Go ahead.
And I'm like,
Oh no, she. I mean,
I might as well.
just when she walked by the table and you introduced me initially, I was trying so hard not to lose my crap.
The fanboy wanted to come out.
Oh my gosh, so badly. Because I mean, when she walks up and she says hi, you're just like, anime. She sounds like an anime character when she speaks, and so you recognize the voice like instantly. You just like, whoa, hold on, I know that voice.
The old school place, just with the big bag and everything. It's like,
And now she actually follows me on Instagram now too, and you know, it was just finding that you know, her being so down to earth, that's willing to still continue to talk to you after the fact, is just a really good sign of just an immensely personable and kind individual.
We deserve the best, is what it is, not you.
And chat has a question for you, Rick. Said, who got you into anime?
Who got me? Okay, that's actually a really cool question. Thank you for that. I was growing up in Travis Air Force Base, California, and me and my older sister, we hadn't really gotten along too much. And I remember there was this NCO, Sergeant Strickland, who watched anime. And he had let my father, or tried to get my father to take some tapes, because he was constantly talking to him about anime. And he had him take some tapes home, saying like, hey, watch these tapes, or let your kids watch them. And I remember sitting down with my older sister, and again, we didn't speak too much because we didn't get along very much. And the first movie I saw was Vampire Hunter D. And I sat with her and I watched it. And I remember just my jaw dropping for the first time. As soon as D entered the frame, my jaw just dropped. So I was like, what is this? And how can I get more of this? What is this beautifully illustrated, you know, movie just in front of me? And why is there blood? Why is there why is all this, what is this remarkable thing? And then we continued to watch the tape, and it was Akira, and it was just this ever present art that was just, you know, I mean, it just completely enthralled me and captivated me. in a way that nothing has since. And from that point, it changed the dynamic of me and my sister's relationship because we both loved it. It changed my entire understanding of what cartoons were, because when I was younger, I mean, it was He-Man. It was, every now and again we get, something that was a little bit more mature, like from Brave Star, where they had the drug episode, but nothing as mature as what we saw with Vampire Hunter D. Akira, and nothing since has come close to, really captivating my understanding of that art form, of those types of movies since, except for anime itself. So that's how I got into it, and that's how I love. And now, as an adult in my late 40s, I'm still completely enthralled with anime to this day because of something that happened in the 80s.
Dumb question. Were those subtitled, or were those English voiceover?
They were the originals. They were subtitled.
I forgot to trim my beard.
Do you find yourself watching more subtitled anime, more English dubbed anime? Do you have a preference as a
Good
result?
question. Well, very good question. It depends. And, I love listening to the dubbed anime as much. Well, I love the original voices, because the original actors' voices is something that's always been an incredibly I want to say, I don't want to say captivating over and over again, but it's true. But at the same time, there's a great deal of respect that I have for the English voice actors. If I watch an English dubbed anime, it's primarily while I'm working, because I'm always on the computer, I'm always working, I'm always updating things, and so I can't watch the anime as much as I can, and so I need to be able to get the information coming in while I'm doing it. But if I get to watch an anime, I will definitely watch like the dubbed or not the sub version, so that I can see what the original I guess idea of what the story is, because sometimes with the dubbed, it's not the actor's fault, but it will be the translator that will translate the Japanese to English in a way that kind of confuses the story every now and again, where the situation will happen and it'll say this, and I'm like, okay, that doesn't make sense to me. What are they trying to say here?
Yep.
Then you watch the Japanese version, and it tells you, I was like, oh, okay, so that's what's happening.
Yep. One of my favorite shows, the English dub changed the undertone of the show entirely, and as a result, as much respect as I have for the voice actors, I don't like the dub at all.
Now, jumping back to Akira, Sean Knight points out in the chat that this year is the 35th anniversary of Akira.
Oh,
And that makes me feel old.
I feel old as well. I actually had a short conversation with my son yesterday. We were out at the bookstore, and it was a book about the importance of Kira on the culture today. And I explained to him how important Akira actually was, because I told him that is one of the, if not one of the first anime that was shown in theaters here in the United States back in the 80s, and how that anime has changed the culture of movies, changed the culture of cartoons, even TV shows up to this date.
You can still see the influence of Akira in things.
Everything.
Yep.
I mean, without Akira, you wouldn't have the Matrix. There's so much that it is responsible for, with having the gross amplification of power, and then the misuse of that, or the the toppling of the society. But it was Akira that started me on my anime journey, and I loved it so much that when I went to college, I actually wrote a paper for one of my courses on Akira itself and its importance and in our social structure now.
That's so cool. And
I
comment for Darren real quick in the chat. Darren Ross says that he knows you have a crush on Dia and Tart, and good news, you'll get to see them again because season 2 of World's Finest Assassin got announced today.
Yes,
Oh,
I do not
wow.
have a crush on them, but yes, I saw the news. I shared it earlier, and yes, I'm excited because that was a really good show.
That was one of my favorite animes of this year that I watched. I am excited to see that.
And talking about shows getting sequels, I believe it was announced last week that Vending Machine is getting a second season. And I will say right now, Vending Machine has no right to be as good as it does.
And see, this is gonna see. I could go on my rant of nothing is original anymore. With how much, like, we go through the season list every season, and how much of it is season 2, season 3, season 75.6, and so on and so forth. Of course, I'm gonna make those jokes, but the point is, we're getting to a point where there's so little that's original. Everything is, and even the stuff that is, it's based on something else. Like it's either based on a light novel, based on a manga, based on something else, anything else.
That's one thing I'll say about Vending Machine is it was something different. I mean, it's a concept we've seen over and over again. But the fact that it turned it, like we've seen a sword, we've seen a slime, we've seen reincarnated and all sorts of random stuff. But I don't think anybody ever thought that something, especially here in the US, we don't like vending machines are a part of Japanese culture. Anybody who's been to Japan or has seen YouTubers from Japan has seen how much importance a vending machine has in their culture. So to us here in the Western world, in the US, to us, we see a Coke, Pepsi machine, something like that. We don't even give it two thoughts.
Unless you're an entrepreneur.
About the, like, for example, I used to have a coworker that would always go to the vending machine and get a bottle of Coke. And then one day, and then it went, and during COVID, they didn't refill them nearly as often. So he'd always ask everybody, hey, when you came in, did they refill the vending machine? And nobody had paid any attention.
Well, see,
we only paid attention to the vending machine because it was the only one in the school that dispensed soda, and it was located by the main entrance, and it got refilled once every 2 weeks, I think.
I spent 3 years in Japan being stationed there, and I got to see the importance of the vending machines out there and everything that they sold. I was in Misawa, and I was also in I was in Misawa, and I also got to go down to Yokota.
Okay, because my cousins, my dad's sister, her husband's mother was from Japan, and she married his dad, who was stationed in Okinawa at the time of World War II, I want to say, or just after World War II.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
So they actually all got to go to Japan about, I'd say about 8-9 years ago when she was still alive. Unfortunately, before she could really teach me any Japanese or anything, she passed away due to bone cancer.
Oh no, I'm so sorry.
We've got a friend who was living. His dad was active duty on Yokosuka for quite some time, and my husband actually got to go out and visit when they were still on the base.
Oh, it's I know they on television they're like, oh, Japan is it's an anime. Yes, it is. It really is. You go there,
it very much is.
When you walk down the street and you see like construction being done, there's these bubbly, happy characters that are posted all along down the way with little hard hat on for construction. Everything is bright in vibrant and pink, and there are vending machines everywhere that sell that sell everything that you could possibly imagine.
We went for honeymoon to Japan in 2018, and yep, same thing. It literally, Japan is Tokyo is very anime.
Oh gosh, everything. I mean, Misawa's way up north where it snows. And I don't know if you guys have ever seen like pictures of like walls of snow with those big things. That's usually northern Japan where they show a lot of that stuff. But at the same time, even though it was very rural, it was still very anime-esque. It was still very, it was still very much like that in that vein. And I will tell you, in all honesty, it was some of the funnest 3 years, the funnest times I've had when I was in the military. And I would give my left leg just to go back there for a week. To be honest,
we did 2 weeks, and we're planning, if everything goes according to plan, we're planning
wonderful.
We're planning another trip to Japan at some point in the future.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And she's already told me to get a list together of stuff I'm looking for, and she'll try to find.
Hey, that does not guarantee anything, but at least
just go to some of those secondhand stores that you always see Trash Chase going to with all the glass.
Oh my gosh, those stores they had everything. I mean, I didn't collect Pokemon cards when I was out there, and my dumb self, because I was out there when it started, and I didn't do it. And I knew people that had books of all the originals, and I remember when I was there, and I go to secondhand stores, and I didn't collect anything. I just thought it was cool, but I was still like, that's too nerdy. I'm not touching that stuff. And a buddy of mine, his name was Mike. He would go out there and collect all that stuff. I want to say, and I'm still friends with him. I've been friends with him for 20 years now. And he started selling some of his stuff off, I want to say maybe 5 years ago. Some Pokemon cards, some old anime stuff, some Robotech stuff. And I want to say he said he pulled in around 30 grand.
I am
sure
very
it's
not
more
surprised.
I'm sure it would have been more if he'd have held on to some of that stuff a little bit longer.
Oh yeah, I messed up. And now I'm a seller of that same stuff.
All my friends that got rid of their cards back in the day, I'm kind of laughing at, because I still got a decent amount of cards at the house that are either first edition, second edition, whatever. And literally, these girls on the bus gave me they compiled some cards that their brother didn't want, and I got a whole binder at the house. I haven't had them graded or anything, but there ain't no telling what some of them might be worth.
Oh, there is no telling what some of them are worth.
I have not just seeing some of my friends from college talk about getting back into stuff like Robotech and things of that nature. It's like I see, because I spent a lot of time in the gaming communities.
Mm-hmm.
And just seeing what some of the vintage stuff goes for on the secondhand market these days, it's ridiculous.
Well, with Robotech, especially with those toys, I mean, because it's again another very popular part of our culture, especially the influence that it had on things like Transformers. I mean, if you were into Robotech back in the day, especially in the 80s, things like that, and you had any of that stuff, it is way more expensive now than it was back in the day, because the originator of those toys, Takatoku, is no longer in existence, largely because he got pushed out because he allowed Hasbro to use some of those molds. Roadbuster, Jetfire, and Whirl. Those are all Bandai toys. So if you guys had any of those old toys from back in the day, like the Jetfire that came in the box with all the parts, that was actually Rick Hunter's jet that was from the show. And if you look on the leg, it doesn't say Hasbro or Takara, it says Bandai. And he got in so much trouble, the owner of that company, that he lost pretty much all the rights to create those toys, and I believe it went to Harmony Gold after that.
Wow.
I am, again, I wish I could say I was surprised by this, but having seen mismanagement with IPs,
Yep.
and then subsequently what gets done with them firsthand, I'm not surprised that it goes back further.
And
Well,
question. Go ahead, Rick.
go ahead. No. I was going to say, well, with. No, please, go ahead. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, a question for you from the chat. John Knight was asking, have you watched the anime Show by Rock?
What's that?
That's one of Doug's favorites.
I know I've talked to you about it before. It's a music-based anime.
Oh, I have not seen that one yet. Especially being that because that's a Japanese language one, isn't it?
I actually, for Show by Rock
dub?
seasons 1 and 2, and Show by Rock Mashimaresh season 1, everything, including the music, is English dubbed.
It's English dubbed. Okay. Actually, I haven't had a chance to watch it yet. To be honest, I've been recycling. I've been so busy since we last saw each other. One, the business has been decent, and I've hit a lot of milestones, but I've been so busy with life stuff that I have not been able to really start anything new. And so I've watched a couple of things, but I typically just play things in the background now. I mean, because recently I put my Munchkin in college, and it's just been trying to prepare for, everything that I've been doing business wise. So I really have not had the opportunity to start anything that I've been recommended. Because there's like the reincarnating as a sword and stuff like, I have matter of fact, because my neighbor is a massive anime fan too. And he's like, he gives me anime to take up, and I want to watch them. Like Haraku and everything else. I have not had the chance to watch those, and so I have a list.
Don't we all?
Of shows,
Yeah.
And it will never get smaller.
It never gets lower. You just add more things to it, that you want to start, and you're just so scared because you get so busy to start the new anime, and you try to do it in chunks or blocks, that then you end up having to stop it for a long period of time, and then you have to restart it all over again because you're like, oh my gosh, where did I leave off? And then you try to start it again. And so it's one of those times where I'm just like, okay, I'm just gonna block off like a week for myself to relax, and that's when your vacation time, you try to use that to like catch up and just veg and watch some good stuff. I haven't even had a chance to watch the One Piece show that's on Netflix that everybody keeps talking about. I don't know if it's good or bad, or
it is. I loved it. I was tossing around the idea of actually doing a special thing where I did a full-blown active review.
You should do it. Yes.
My
I
wife
would
loved
watch it because I have no clue.
But
I've been told I should watch it because I may enjoy it, knowing nothing about One Piece.
well, I went in knowing not a whole hell of a lot about One Piece, because over 1,000 episodes. Who's got time for that? The live action was 8 episodes, about an hour each, and from watching people's comments after the fact, it's actually really close to the source material.
Wow.
And even the Anime Man did a review on it, saying that it was probably the best live action he has seen.
Are you kidding? To be
Yep.
honest, there's very few I'm not even gonna get a Ghost in the Show.
I see. I could. That's a rabbit. Just live actions in general. That's a rabbit hole I could go down. Ghost in the Shell wasn't terrible. It was just kind of there.
It was there. I could not get into the.
I've also not seen any of the source material, but it was one of those. I watched it on a flight. I watched it on a flight. It wasn't the worst thing I've ever seen.
I watched Ghost in the Shell on Toonami from back in the day, and the beauty of the movie was good, but the portrayal, Scarlett Johansson did not get it right. I don't think she was the right person for that. It was just the uptight, the shoulder walking.
It was I've seen live actions that were so far worse that one, it was one of those. It was decidedly meh.
But I'll say Battle Angel.
Yes,
was one of the best.
Alita, so good.
That was good. That one, I think. Date was it the one with Tom Cruise, where was it that where he repeated time?
Oh God.
Independence Day?
No,
Groundhog Day.
Was it Day After Tomorrow or?
No,
It was like they repeated the day over and over and over again. That was a manga. That was based off of manga. That is actually an anime movie, or not an anime movie. That's a manga movie.
But bringing this back to the chat, John Knight's asking if you have you seen Attack on Titan? What's your thoughts?
Okay. I have seen Attack on Titan, and I read Attack on Titan, and I was not happy. Okay, so one of the tropes that we always get in Marvel, and I'll get to the point in a second, where they write themselves into a corner. It's time travel. It's always the same way. It's like, okay, how do we get out of this? Time heist. It's like, okay. And I believe what happened with Attack on Titan, and it was moving in the right direction. It was perfect. I mean, Eren he had to make a change. He made himself into the bad guy that they needed to bring everybody together. But since they were cut, because I believe it was canceled, he had to write his way out of it as fast as he possibly can, and made it into almost a time travel thing where Eren. Well, go ahead.
In the manga, was it really that disjointed?
It was, unfortunately.
Okay, so that they kept it true to the source as opposed to completely going off the rails.
But the thing is, they actually fixed more of it in the anime than they did in the manga. They fixed a few of the open-ended aspects of it and even though it was still disjointed, they still fixed some of the parts that were inside the manga, because the manga just kind of like he's dead, he's decapitated, she's holding his head, he's back in the past, he's in the present. He's talking to his brother.
We've got some Doctor Strange bullshit going on.
Yes, a lot of it. It was so good. Everything leading up to where Eren had the progenitor Titan's powers, it was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. And then it just...
And then if we're lucky, by 25-25, we'll see the final.
Yep. And this gets...
It's it was doing so well, and then it got cut, because I don't know if it was as popular in Japan as it was here, because it initially was just
I'm gonna go
nobody. What was that?
No, I've got some conjecture and baseless thoughts about that, but we've got
Yeah.
some stuff in the chat. Since you brought up Marvel as an example, question on that topic: have you seen
Sure.
Morbius and explain why? And can explain why everyone hates it?
Which one?
Morbius.
Morbius. Okay, yes, I saw Morbius. Why does everybody hate it? Because it was a terrible movie. The bad guy didn't fit. The portrayal of Morbius, while good at the same time, it wasn't the right person to do it. It was very disjointed. It was very haphazard, unfortunately, at times, and it didn't really hit the really important or aspects of the character. It was very at best I could say it was more of a topical movie than actually delving into the lore of what Morbius actually was. And the bad guy of Morbius was it was very to me, and I apologize, I don't mean to offend, but I think the Morbius's enemy in there was very cookie cutter. It was just like, okay, who do we have Morbius fight? Himself. Somebody just like him. And who do we have just like him? Somebody that has the same problems he does. And he has to be evil. And so I just think that there was so much that could have involved in the structuring of that character, because he is a very nuanced character in the comic books. He's a very deep character in the comic books, but they just didn't hit on that. It was just a very topical movie that it was almost as if the writer and the director, they never read any of the books. They just looked at the pictures and said, that's what we're gonna do.
And Ross, to kind of address the final part of that, just because the royal you like something
Mm-hmm.
doesn't necessarily mean that is no indication of whether something is good or bad. What
No,
any
not at
individual
all.
enjoys is subjective. Like
Yeah,
all
absolutely.
media, like all art, it's subjective.
Absolutely, it is, and that's why I said, I don't mean to offend anybody. It is very subjective. I mean, because there was things that I like that are like, I mean, I liked was that terrible movie that was done by
Sword Art
Eddie
Online.
Murphy. Yeah, no, it was no. That actually I like sort of.
Hey, stop that! You stop that! They're poking fun
But
at
no,
me.
I think it was called Pluto Nash. It was a really terrible movie that came out by Eddie Murphy, one of his most worst movies, and I enjoy that terrible mess of a movie. It's the dumbest, campiest, stupidest thing that was out there, but I enjoy it. So I mean, I'm not trying to take away anybody's enjoyment from Morbius. I just think that they could have really, with the introduction of his character, they could have really gone more in depth with the lore of his character. And that's the only reason why I don't say I didn't like it. I just say I was disappointed by the portrayal, that they could have really, put him out there better.
And I have to say, it's not often I ruffle Angela's feathers, but that was one of those classic moments that I just goofily threw SAO out there.
And speaking of SAO, thank you, John, for the plethora of information. Today marks the 10th anniversary of the Sword Art Online English dub.
Oh wow!
And I like Sword Art. That's one of the ones that they give me crap for.
I started it.
I
It seemed interesting, and when it went from a cool video game story to a love story, I'm like, I'm done. Too much other stuff out there. I like the concept. You threw a curveball I didn't like, so I'm just going to step away.
And the funny thing is, the romance aspect lasted like a few episodes, and then it went back to being, it's there, but it's not a focal point.
And then I hear everybody say that the best SAO is the SAO without Kirito. So,
which is true. Alice was the perfect stand-in.
She was.
Alice was amazing.
Yep.
But my head's
now switching gears, going back to Nerd Urbanity, what was it that got you interested to start to become a figure, action figure retailer?
It's funny. I had no desire to become an action figure retailer at the very beginning. I was actually I just got out of the military and I was working on the economy, and I decided to go back to school. And I went to school for business initially, and after some ethics classes, I realized I wanted to be a psychologist. And I actually was in the middle of my master's degree of clinical psychology, and I was becoming a little bit more of a nerd and a little bit more of a nerd. And I remember sitting down and talking to my wife. She said, "Are you going to enjoy doing this?" And I told her, I said, "Well, yeah, I always want to help people. I always had the desire to want to make people, believe in themselves and feel better about themselves, or just be, have an understanding, or have, a little bit of happiness." And she said, "Yes, what about you? Are you going to be happy?" And I was aware that psychologists do have a high burnout rate, and mind you, I was not the only one in our friend group that was working on psychology. I was watching them drop out one by one, because they were burning out just through the education aspect of it. And I asked her, well, what if because I had a toy collection at that time, because I started collecting after the first Transformers movie. And she said, well, if you don't do psychology, then what? I was like, give me a moment. And so I just went into the room, because I was fiddling with some of my toys, and I went to go put it back. And when I put it on the shelf, I was like, this stuff is really cool, and this stuff makes me happy. What if I did this? And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, what if I did this? And I walked out with the same toy that I was fiddling with. And I looked at my wife and I said, what if I did this? I said, I get to use psychology. I get to use business. I get to have fun. I get to, nerd out with people. I get to, give people things that they had as kids, have something that reminds them of a time that they didn't have to worry about something. I said, it's everything kind of bound into this. She's like, what if I did this? She was like, where are you going to get the money for that? And I was like, what if I sold this? And she looked at me like I was nuts. She was like, there's no way you're going to sell any of that stuff. She's like, you're crazy. I know how you feel about it. No, there's no way. And I had this massive collection of like 1,000 Transformers. And I was like, what if I did? What if I use this as my startup money? What if I did this, to start? And she's like, there's no way. So it's like, I'm gonna put it on eBay. And so I put it on eBay, and I sat down next to her after spending like an hour taking pictures and writing and trying to document things and learning how to do this stuff. And I sat down next to her. I was like, okay, I get it. She's like, you liar, there's no way. And the ka-ching sound came up immediately. And she's like, what happened? And mind you, I put it at some unreasonable price, like $250. And somebody bought it. And I looked at my wife. I was like, it's gone. She's like, no, there's no way. I said, yeah, it's gone. Maybe I could do this. And so I sold a few more, and I sold a few more, and I sold a few more. And with every sale that I made, I bought 2 more figures. But I bought them brand new, packaged them, and I was buying nostalgic vintage stuff. I never had the original Sky Commanders or whatever when I was younger. And so I wanted to have that stuff, even if it was, something that was temporary. And so I was able to start bringing that stuff in the house. And next thing I knew, I sold off my entire collection. And I had only one shelf of toys, but it was all vintage stuff from the 1980s. That was, I was able to get for really inexpensive things, and I was able to sell for a good profit. And from there, I went to the flea market, and started trying to sell my wares at the flea market, and met up with a couple of people who had stores in the area. And after sending them some work their way, they invited me to a convention, and I started selling at the convention. And it was every little piece that I did, I grew just a little bit more, and just a little bit more, and just a little bit more, and a little bit more, and to the point now where I was able to open the website, and it was, like I said, it was just a year and a half ago, and and I'm able to sustain my business, doing that, and I now maintain the website. I'm selling Google Ride, and now I have I used to have to hunt for vendors to work with me because they didn't want to have anything to do with me, and now they call me and ask me if I want to sell their stuff. And recently, I was invited to the toy fair in New York City. So it's just, like I said, it's just a little bit of growth and a little bit of growth from doing psychology to now selling toys. And oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, it is very crazy how a path that you start off on may have little to nothing to do with the path you end up on.
Very much so. Very much so. I mean, with what I'm doing now, I can honestly say that I've really never enjoyed a career field more. I mean, sometimes it can be difficult, but having the opportunity when I go to conventions and to talk with people who see something that they had from their childhood.
And there he went.
Yep.
Somebody tried to contact me just recently, but having an opportunity to share something with people that haven't been there or haven't seen something since their childhood, it is a remarkable thing to see the reaction, and that's what really pushes me forward as I'm selling. I've actually seen some tears. I've seen people hug things. It's been an interesting journey, and I'll honestly say that I have some of the best customers that I've are some of the greatest people I've met doing this. It's been a fantastic thing.
And knowing that it's been it's absolutely fascinating to hear your story of starting off with psychology and switching gears to doing something that makes you happy. A lot of people question me when I say I didn't start off with Anime Talk. I started off on a paranormal podcast. And some people,
I'm sorry, I can't. My volume has disappeared for a second. I might have to rejoin. I apologize.
Okay, go right ahead. So
the joys of being alive, technical difficulties.
Yeah,
and I'm gonna boot.
Which thankfully we haven't seen a whole lot of here.
I am gonna boot this one. Nope, never mind, because he's back. All right.
Sorry about that.
That's okay. Can you hear us better now?
Hello?
Can you hear us now?
All right.
Apparently not.
Still working on it.
Well, yeah, no, that story hits very close to home.
Not to say it. For a moment there, I was going to call him Gary V. Because you listen to Gary V, that's basically exactly how he started to an extent. Go yard selling, pick up stuff for near nothing that people find good, and they'll pay you money. They'll pay you good money for it.
All right. Can you hear us now?
Yeah, sorry about that. Somebody tried to call me while I was talking to you guys, and everything stopped.
Oh, that's perfectly fine.
Gotta love technology.
And I was saying before you had the issues, AZR, I didn't start off my podcast and internet radio career talking anime. I started off talking paranormal.
Yeah.
So
And
that jump from one to the other is just
Mhm.
absolutely insane how it happened.
Yeah.
and I ultimately didn't plan on this being a thing at all. I figured it was going to be a guest here and there, and that was going to be the end of it. And then,
Go ahead.
apparently, it just kind of evolved, and it's been one heck of a ride.
And I
Darren's
jumped
an OG.
on. Yep. I've known you since you started reaching out, talking about said show.
Mm-hmm.
Because I was the administrators for one of the pages you messaged.
Oh wow.
And Timothy Lucas in the chat was there at the start as well. Like I mentioned, Hazy Radio Days 9.5 years ago. He was an active member of the chat. Started off as Cosmic Karma Cookie, and then it just turned to Karma Cookie because of the abbreviations. So he dropped the first part, and
his comment in the chat. So many people who have no idea what something is worth will sell really awesome items for peanuts.
Yes.
Yep.
And I am the person that buys it.
I'm gonna just call you Rick from Pawn Stars.
It is.
Yep.
So, I want to say there was one time somebody, I went to a yard sale, and the person was just selling some toys. I was like, "Oh, how much for this stuff?" And he was like, "Oh, just whatever's on the package." And I went out there, and it was nothing but He-Mans and stuff like that from the 1980s, and they were all packaged, and he had them for like a couple of bucks a piece. I took everything and ran as fast as I could.
You bought the box for like $20-$30.
Oh my gosh, like $20-$30. And I want to say I sold it was a 1982 vintage Beastman with not a scratch, a mark, a yellowing, or anything on it. It was $500. I sold that last month, and I bought it at this guy's yard sale.
Yep, that's a thing.
That's the way to do it. I won't lie. I've thought about doing that because I love going to yard sales. I love finding the hidden treasures and stuff. I haven't been able to do it as much, especially getting older and constantly working a job. But
I had a gentleman who broke my heart just recently. He had all of the original G.I. Joes that were in his home. Apparently, the last person who had lived there left them, and it was the flagship. It was the jets and everything. They were all boxed, and a buddy of mine was asking him for me if he would be willing to sell me that stuff. And I saw my buddy yesterday. I was like, "Hey, what's going on with that G.I. Joe stuff?" He was like, "Yeah, I talked to the guy." He was like, "He just gave it to his grandkids." I was like, "Wait, hold on. He gave a 1980s flagship in the box worth like $5,000 or 15? No, sometimes, about close to 10 to his grandkids." My heart just dropped. I'm happy that they get to play with the stuff, but my heart sunk thinking that they're probably drawing in crayon on that toy.
Yep.
From a collector's standpoint, I can totally understand that. As a parent, I can see the other side as well.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I've given my kids some stuff because my boys shop in my office. And I have Hot Toys. Matter of fact, I gave my son a Hot Toys Miles Morales just the other day. And that's a $250 toy. He was down there. He loves the cartoon. I loved it too. And Dad, I love this. Take it. He's yours. So I completely understand.
And getting into the collectible side of things, did you ever think that you would be open to selling anime figures and stuff like that, knowing you started off selling some of your personal Transformers collection? was anime ever in the picture early on, or was that something that just going to conventions opened up a door for you?
That's another very, very good question. Actually, that was something that was completely out of my wheelhouse at the very beginning. I was more so into trying to sell like the He-Mans and things like that, and then the anime toys. I didn't know those existed. I want to say back in 2014 when I started selling off my collections. And I want to say when I started buying, it was in like 2015 and 16. I didn't know that toys for anime cartoons like that exist. I didn't know about figure arts. I didn't know about androids. I didn't know about any of that stuff. And trying to even get some of that in stock was almost, I want to say, almost like a fantasy or a dream to me. It was just so far off because I'm like, well, here's Japan, here's me. How am I supposed to get any of that stuff here? And plus, it was, when I was trying to get it at a price that I'd be able to sell it at, I would always get outbid or I wouldn't be able to get it because my first stock, I had to procure everything through like eBay. And so it was something that was just so far off and almost, just it was almost a non-issue because I couldn't get it. And now I've spoken to Milestone. I've talked to a number of different anime distributors, telling them I'm trying to make sure I corner the market on the East Coast. He asked me what I wanted to do, and I told him, I said, there's not a lot of anime distributors here, or at least, that are selling websites that are on the East Coast. Most of them are over in California. And or they have stores and things like that. And I said, you go to a store, the websites aren't really, maintained. I said, I want to make sure that I could be a better purveyor of that now over on the East Coast. So in all honesty, it was something I could not wrap my head around because I could not get it. And now that I have a channel to it, you can't keep me away from that stuff. That's 50% of what I sell now.
And I bring that up because, like I said, when we saw you at Rail City, so because you tune into the show from time to time, you've heard me rant and rave about, how a realist hero rebuilt the kingdom.
Yep.
and then
I remember
you heard me mention that there was an android of one of the characters from that. So when I showed up and he handed me that box, and Angela was there. She saw me reaching for my wallet. And you're like, no. I was ready to buy that, and you're like, nope, I got this for you for what you did to bring, Christy to the con and things of that nature. And
yeah, absolutely. I mean, because you didn't have to, and bringing more attention even to the convention and bringing people there and bringing such a phenomenal voice actress and, even bringing me on the show the first time, whether I won it or not, you didn't have to do those things. And I am a big believer in, I know it may sound weird, but there's so many different people that I believe should know how special what they do is. And there's not a whole lot of thank you that you receive. And I'm a big believer in thanking the people who do good things for others without asking for something for themselves. And so out of the blue, I will thank that individual. I will thank you. This is from me to you. Thank you. It's like, what are you doing this for? Because you did something great and somebody needs to thank you for it.
And we need more people like that in the world, in all honesty, because I'm the same way.
That's as cliche and sometimes naive as it is. That's kind of my whole philosophy on life. If I can go and make a difference in someone's life, no matter how
Yeah.
small, then I know I've done my job.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what I feel that you guys were doing. I mean, what you've done is, you know, and I don't think it's cliche. I think it's a remarkable thing that you guys take this. You take the time out of your life. You take the time out of your days, because everybody nowadays is busy, and we all have 120 things we're doing at any given moment. But you still do this to entertain people. You bring pieces of yourself that aren't generally seen, and you bring a system of knowledge in an entertaining way that people are able to grasp and just have fun with, and make it palatable for them as well. So it's a part of yourself that you're giving that you did not have to give. You're really, you know, saying, here, this is from me, this is to you. And so you know, I always feel that when there's so giving individuals out there, and it's a completely altruistic response to life. That's somebody, like, my God, just somebody, thank you. Like, somebody say thank you. And there's so often where it just doesn't happen. And I just feel, you know, I just feel like it should. You know, we really should just like look at the people who do these things, you know, and without any want for themselves. It's, okay, you know what? Somebody needs to say thank you. And if it's not going to be you, it's going to be me.
Well, we really do appreciate that, and you know, as you know, and our longtime listeners know that I started this show as a way to give back to a community, you know, because I went through a messy divorce years ago, and as that marriage was falling apart, is when I rediscovered anime, and that's when I was just starting to get into the paranormal podcasting and paranormal live radio or internet radio, because of being a paranormal investigator since I was 19, and I'm in my mid 40s now. So I've got a lot of years of going investigating places and seeing things that go bump in the night and all that fun stuff. So when I had the opportunity to bring on of all things, we had a demonologist cancel Sunday before a Wednesday show, which left us scrambling to find a guest. And because I had some anime voice actors who accepted friend requests on Facebook, I just reached out to a well-known voice actress at the time, told her who I was, what the situation was, and she said that it sounded like a fun idea. Awesome. Gave me information. We got it to our booking producer. The show was confirmed at 1:00 Wednesday for an 8:00 show. I was at work. I got home about 6:30, had an hour and a half to promote bringing on this well-known voice actress, which I think is when when Darren first caught wind about me. And that voice actress was Jeremy Lee, who a lot of people know her as Lucy from Fairy Tale, Yoshika Miyafuji in Strike Witches, which was my introduction to her work, and Gage in Borderlands 3, and so many other amazing shows. And you know, she originally was only going to come on for a short time because she was in the middle of signing papers for a new apartment, getting ready to go to Anime Boston the following weekend, and everything just came together. And I think Scott Harris sent Angela the actual audio, so at some point she's going to get that up on.
At some point I need to do that. That has not been done yet.
But you get to hear me fanboy something fierce talking to a voice actor for the first time. And we brought Scott on for our anniversary show earlier this year in April, and he's like, he talked a mile a minute. It was like the biggest word vomit you've ever heard, and you could tell he was geeking out.
That is so cool.
And actually.
And that's what opened the door to even get into doing this show. And then when I had the opportunity, I was like, if I'm, doing research, there wasn't really any anime podcasts out there or any anime radio shows out there.
Mhm.
And if you found something, it was just people playing music they downloaded or things of that nature.
Or it was the early days of the AniTubers that would do like reviews and things of that nature, and nothing like this.
And I saw it as an opportunity because at the time, there wasn't really, there were a lot of conventions, but not everybody had access to them. If you weren't in, a decently populated area, you weren't getting to a convention unless you were traveling, flying a few hours somewhere or traveling 6, 8, 10, 12 hours to get to a convention. And I wanted to, I started it saying, I want to, if I make this show, I don't just want to bring voice actors on. Having been to conventions, I see the artwork that the artists do. I see the cosplay that people make. I see so much other stuff, and I want to include that in the show because they are just as an important part of the anime community as the shows, the voice actors, the writers, the characters, everybody from Japan who creates the mangas and light novels to the people who dub it all around the world.
It's such a difficult thing for them to do over there in Japan, especially the writing and the animating. They work themselves so hard, and so
that's where half these guys come from. Those guys dying.
Yeah, that's also part of like that. In Japan, that's not limited to that industry. Japan's got a very
that's their work culture.
That's their work culture is like that across the board.
They work hard, but when they are off of work, woo!
Yep.
They play hard. They play hard.
We've got a question in the chat for you. What Nerd Urbanity, what was your reaction when Funimation and Crunchyroll had their merge?
Honestly, there was two different sides of the coin for me because I was a huge fan of Funimation and I only just started with Crunchyroll. Now, mind you, I initially saw it as, okay, well, it's just another corporate merger. Here we go. But at the same time, I was excited to where it's like, okay, so maybe we can get some of those really fantastic Funimation shows on Crunchyroll that we may not have seen before. But at the same time, I was kind of concerned because Funimation would be on different platforms like Hulu, Amazon, on Amazon Prime. Like, so are they now gone from there? Is Crunchyroll going to basically, and that's where my concern was. I was excited about the merger, but I was concerned because of like, okay, so are they going to have a monopoly on this whole thing? Is everything going to be on Crunchyroll? Like, okay, if you're not watching it from them, can you get it from anywhere else now? And that's, so there were aspects of it where I was excited for Crunchyroll and their growth, but there was the other side where I saw it from the business aspect, where I'm like, okay, so this is now a controlling aspect of these shows. So are they going to be only on Crunchyroll? Are the DVDs going to be available anymore? Because you have certain shows or that were widely distributed. But is the distribution going to be slowed down because they want to say keep it on platform? So there's a jumble of mixed feelings that come with that merger.
And then I'm going to get into a follow-up to that.
Before you get into that follow-up, I have one question. Were you aware of High Dive and that was associated with Sentai Filmworks also producing anime at the time of the merger?
I was not. I'm aware of what High Dive is, but I was not aware that was part of that merger.
Yeah, because basically, like Funimation produces the way that I see it now is Funimation and Sentai produce, the animes, direct it, get the voice actors and stuff in. Crunchyroll and High Dive are the distributors of the finished product. So if you want to watch a Sentai title, you go to High Dive. If you want to watch a Funimation title, you go to Crunchyroll.
And then you've got
and Aniplex.
And Aniplex.
And then you've got Netflix producing their own.
And now you have Disney,
and
who owns Bleach, right?
I think so.
Yeah.
Disney owns a lot.
Yeah, because they are now in anime.
Yep.
Anime stream now too.
But kind of a follow-up question. It came up in my news feed over the past couple of days.
We know Darren's happy about this.
As part of that whole merger, the Right Stuff store, as of I believe it's October.
It's like mid-October.
It's like mid-October is getting. Thank you. Is getting funneled into Crunchyroll's online shop.
Which, in my opinion, is a terrible move.
Oh wow.
That for me, I don't care who hears this. Not a fan of.
I don't blame you. Because when you have controlling aspects of different businesses, unfortunately, that can get funneled in and very, how I said, myopic, I guess, because everything starts becoming very just toned down and slimmed into the purview of a single entity. So instead of being as open and as out there as it should, now everything can be dimmed down to, okay, this is our goal, this is our one thing, instead of look, no, the spice of life is choices. When one entity is in control of everything becomes that one entity.
When competition is eliminated, then
exactly
it's negative for everybody.
Exactly. Yep. And so you just don't have the choices anymore. You don't have I guess it stops being a cornucopia of different things.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, Darren. Did Right Stuff have the rights to selling interspecies reviewers?
No, I think they had permission to, but I don't think they had the exclusive rights. I want to say it was licensed to sell by Sentai Filmworks, but only to sell as is, or I don't remember who has the rights to sell that. I know Right Stuff had it on their website, but I'm trying to remember who had the actual distributing rights to it, even though Funimation basically gave it up and refused to dub it. Because it is
I don't
available
understand.
for purchase.
I don't understand why Funimation wouldn't go and dub it. I mean, it's such a wholesome show. I can't even say it with a straight face.
Right?
Oh God!
I can't even say that with a straight face. It being a wholesome show.
No, it was wholesome. Depends on who the person is watching it.
See, going through the chat, Timothy's comment about Rooster Teeth. I'm right there. Rooster Teeth has evolved a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Ruby is still fantastic.
Nobody knows what Ruby is. I got to give you a little bit of crap.
I know.
Actually, I've been giving you crap all night. Who am I kidding?
Exactly.
I love Ruby. Personally, I love Ruby.
I met Angela as she was cosplaying as Ruby.
Yang. That was a long time ago. But yes. But yeah, Rooster Teeth has seen a lot of evolution recently, to the point where Achievement Hunter's pretty much gone and the cast is off doing other projects. And then more in the comments. Comment for Darren. Unlike Disney, Crunchyroll and Right Stuff actually care about recipients and viewers. Since they are anime fans themselves.
I can agree to that, but I can test that, and I'm not gonna say why.
And well,
Insane.
and Ross says yes, Right Stuff did sell interspecies reviewers.
Oh,
They did. Yes.
And then from the chat, have you watched Goblin Slayer?
me?
Yes, you.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Season two starting in a couple of weeks.
I'm excited. I loved
Same.
that anime. So well done. And it is a
Same.
beautifully drawn anime as well. Yes.
I've watched 2 episodes. It just didn't interest me.
And that is the response I expected. Not gonna lie, Doug. I picked that one on purpose.
It wasn't as bad as people made it out to be. Like that first episode, I heard so much negativity about, and I was like, it's nothing like people made it out to be. That's what you would expect in a situation like that. And they had the guts to show, a bad situation for what it was. Where some other shows would powder puff it or sugarcoat it or whatnot. And I think it's a well thought out series. It just isn't something that was in my wheelhouse.
Oh, Doug, really quickly.
I did give it an attempt, which I know that was all Angela was asking for when she chose that for me.
About to say, I think. Oh wait, she did choose that one, but I was harping on you before then.
Basically, what we did a while ago was each of us picked a show for somebody else to watch that purposely was outside the normal wheelhouse.
So what were the choices?
I had Goblin Slayer.
I picked Goblin Slayer for Doug.
I was picked Shine Post by Doug.
Yeah, an idol anime.
Yep.
And Darren picked an ecchi Aho Girl for me.
I love your reaction right there. That just proves I made the right choice.
Oh, so what did you think? Of the ecchi?
It was. I ended up watching the entire thing, and I thought it wasn't as bad as I was prepared for it to be. That said, it was very dumb and very.
That's what made it good, was the stupid humor, because you expected it and it delivered.
And I wanted to strangle, I think, every character except the dog.
Well, yeah, the dog was the best character of the show. I mean, that's hands down. There's a few shows where it's like the pets are the best character.
It's some of the dumbest anime can end up being some of the most entertaining ones. And I remember there was one, I think it was the grandchild, what is it called? The
Wise Man's Grandchild?
I hated that anime so very much. Couldn't stand the voice acting, the way they did it, and I couldn't stand the anime. I was just like, oh my gosh, they keep like, stop kissing this guy's butt. It's like, oh my God, you're so great. Oh, Wilford, you're so great. It's like, oh my God, please stop telling this guy he's so great. And I hated it. And I told my neighbor who recommended it to me that I hated it. And then I found myself watching it again. And I went back to my neighbor. I was like, I like it.
Yep.
It grew on me so much. And it was just something, I was just like, this is just a stupid good time. I hated myself for how much I liked it. And now I just enjoy. I've seen that anime now at least 4 times.
And just for you, Rick, I'm going to bring everybody's windows down for a second so you can see the backdrop that's behind us all.
Yeah. You cannot do that show without talk about that show without bringing that up.
God, that was something. And then No, I've watched enough of the. Why did I watch this?
Rick, and if you
Yeah.
want a show to absolutely hate yourself for ever watching to begin with, I think Doug has a good recommendation for you.
Oh
I-
my god.
I'm not even going to bring that up, Darren. We'll let Angela tell him.
Nope.
Which one is it?
Fine,
Come on, someone's got to tell me.
Conception.
What is? Okay, let me write this down so I
Oh
can.
God.
Oh
Nope.
Lord.
It really is that. I
Concept-
think there's-
I'm gonna put it in the proper book, I guess. Apparently, for
Conception was based off of a video game. And it's an anime that for some reason or another, Darren watched in its entirety. My wife and I watched it in its entirety. Angela, I think you just heard about the show or saw.
I believe I watched episode 1 during a afternoon with friends of watching every pilot.
And
But
we all say we don't know how we got through
appreciate
it.
that.
She's got the big Death Note.
see, okay. So I will give it a shot.
Oh Lord.
I'm gonna be if you guys invite me back, after my convention coming up, I will give you my guess.
It is on
response?
Crunchyroll. It is
Oh,
on
God.
Crunchyroll, just so you know.
Oh god. Okay.
And
On that note, let me give you a second one that neither of these two have seen, and it's only 2 episodes. It was that bad.
Oh no. What is it?
And the manga, from my understanding, was a way more wholesome and way more cute, I guess you could say. Wholesome. Aiken.
How do you spell that?
EIKEN.
I will check.
It's literally
that out as well.
2 episodes, and looking back, it's probably not as bad as what I made it out to be, but for a while there, it stayed on my list of the worst show I've ever watched. Period.
After he watches this, he may not want to come back on, or he's going to come back on and yell at us.
No, I think he'll hate Conception more, personally.
and I think we're just gonna have a good 5 minutes of giggle fit of how bad some of the stuff is that gets brought to the States.
Or 5 minutes of silence to
I will-
commemorate his dignity.
I will prepare you for Conception this way. Even some of the voice actors don't like admitting they were in this show.
Yes, really.
Because
And
we've
you
talked
might
to
saw
some.
if
No.
Um,
Why?
Going through some of the chat comments, Ross, I 100% agree with you. When I saw the announcement that Happy Marriage is getting a second season, I was super excited. Episode 12, so good.
Spy Family coming out with their next season. Excited about that.
Yes. Spy Family season 2 starts on the 7th, I believe. 6th, 7th of October.
Yep. Of course, knowing that Rick's able to get some of the Nendroids and stuff, if there's ones I'm looking for, I might have to reach out to you.
You let me know which ones you're looking for, and I will make sure I have them for you.
Number 1 on my list, I'll say right now, and it's one of the toughest ones to find, is Iron Mouse, the VTuber.
Iron Mouse, the VTuber.
She's a VTuber. She goes by Iron Mouse. That is a Nendroid that I want. I don't remember what the number was. I used to know, but I don't remember anymore.
Oh, really quickly, Doug, to clarify what you asked earlier.
Yep.
So, Right Stuff Incorporated actually had several different entities or divisions. Through its adult division, it was called Critical Mass Video. It's Right Stuff's former studio for adult anime programming. It offers titles catering to an assortment of different preferences. The label was taken over by Adult Source Media and EroAnimeStore.com after Right Stuff removed all adult content following the Crunchyroll acquisition.
Yeah.
So there's your answer. It was a division of Right Stuff.
Okay. Uh, 1953 is the number for the Nendroid.
Okay. I will take
I
that.
figured that would be a big help.
Well, for how many Funko Pops, Nendroids there are, I mean, I never thought I'd see the numbers get this high.
I thought Funko Pop was gonna die out immediately after I saw it, and now,
And now there's Funko Pops for literally everything.
everything.
And I think they are the ugliest freaking things.
And the funny thing is, you can do customs.
Yeah.
Because I've seen people do custom ones.
They did a custom Monica Rial's Facebook page. The admins got together and created a Funko Pop of Monica in a recording booth and gave it to her for her birthday. It was a joint effort from all of her moderators. And I was very fortunate enough to have been a part of that Skype call with Monica when she received it. And it was amazing to see. She was blown away. And, we've been lucky enough to have many of the people associated with her fan page come in as viewers of the show. Some of them have been guests on the show. So really seeing some of the work that they've been doing, that I thought was really cool. Like I said, I'm not the biggest fan of the Funkos. That's why I like the Nendroids, because you can like change pieces and parts out and they look a little bit better than the big-headed Funko Pops.
I agree wholly. It's just that, with the Funkos, they're just, well, Nendroids are a little bit harder to get and they're way more expensive. And the Funkos are like $5.
And then if you want to get them signed, they're $100.
Yes, but
or
at the
they're
same time,
limited editions and
yeah, but at the same time, I'm not a huge fan of the Funko Pops either, though. I gotta be honest. They're just whenever I go to toy store or whatever, and they say, "Oh yeah, we have lots of stuff," and you go in and it's 90% Funko Pops. Like
you go
I
like, no, I don't have anything.
I just remember seeing a San Diego Comic-Con exclusive Funko Pop go on the secondary market for way too much money.
I have a few of those, unfortunately. I have a San Diego Comic-Con Funko Pop of Slave 1, and I think that's like $100. It's Boba Fett and Slave 1. But at the same time, like I said, I some of them I just don't feel comfortable picking up or selling, because if I'm selling something that's going to be highly collectible, I like it to have something more to it, something more profound. And I just think the Funko Pops, as much as I see the response to them, unfortunately, I think that it's, I don't know, they're like a dime a dozen.
I almost think that's more of the gateway into collecting, especially for they're not as expensive. So someone who's younger on a tighter budget,
which is true, and
can't afford to import anything, they'll start their collections with those.
I can't disagree with you. I honestly, you have an excellent point. I can't disagree with that. The only thing, like I said, the only thing that makes me, not so much about the Funko Pops is just the fact that there's just
so many.
It's just so many.
And it's gotten to the point, and as a avid fan of collecting the figures, going to conventions now, you will see booths, and it's like you could go to even a medium-sized con and see multiple vendors with a ton of Funko Pops
and almost nothing else.
if you go to a con that I'm selling at, I'll have maybe 3. That'll be it.
That's one reason I like going to Rick's, is because being a collector of the Nendroids, Rick actually had at Rail City like 5 or 6 different Nendroids, and some of them were ones I had never seen before, because we were going after some of the obscure ones, not such of the mainstream ones, which I thought was really cool.
Exactly.
And I think that could be where a good niche for you coming in, because it seems people are shying away from selling Nendroids and focusing on pop, because that's what's popular.
That's what's popular.
I prefer the Nendroids because I think they look better, they hold their value better.
Well, see, when it comes to selling, I know, and I've learned from people that I've shadowed they sold toys, but they had no connection to what they were selling. They didn't care. They weren't really fans of what they were selling. They were just salespeople. It could have been anything in their store, shirts or shoes or whatever. They just sold them. But I actually have a connection to the things that I sell because I'm actually a fan of what I distribute. And partially because I want to be able to connect to the people that I'm selling to. So if they see something, they're like, hey, I like this. And I can tell them, yeah, absolutely. This is great. I know exactly what this is from. And so when they come and they talk to me and they're actually a fan of what I'm distributing, I can have that connection with them. And so it's not just a system of, I guess, bargain between two people. It's actually a connection between two fans. And so I will have things that are going to be a little bit more limited, or things are going to be a little bit more nuanced, because not everybody's going to have that stuff. You're going to see Marvel everywhere, Marvel pops, Marvel this, DC pops, DC, and I'll have, something from a realist hero.
Funny story. When Disney bought Marvel, Disney actually tried to, with Artist Alley stuff, fan art is a large part of that, and there's rules.
Yeah, I remember.
Disney actually tried to give the artists C&Ds for Marvel fan art, and Marvel's like, hey, no, that's no, we don't condone that.
Yeah.
Because Marvel, their whole thing with the fan art was, so long as you're following the guidelines, cool, more people that wouldn't see our stuff are now seeing our stuff.
They tried to do that with anime, where they were trying to have cosplayers pay. Like, they were going to ban cosplayers from wearing their the costumes for the characters, or make them pay or fine them for wearing it. And it's like, well, you do understand that cosplayers are actually bringing more attention to your work. And by doing that to them, you're actually shooting yourself in the foot. I never understood. I mean, I get the business standpoint of things, but you're forgetting the fans who made you.
Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that I've, from doing this show and getting to talk with the people that we've been lucky enough to talk to, everybody from the voice actors to even having multiple studios on, including the owner of Bang Zoom Studios, and wow, finding out about, how things work there. It blows my mind to be like, these people just love the interaction. They love the fans, because the fans are who keeps them in business. The fans are who creates their paychecks, and they know and understand that. And the last thing they want to do is hinder that in some way. Disney is just so full of itself, it's ridiculous, and it's one reason I've started shying away from a lot of Disney stuff. And I have actually for years shied away from a lot of Disney stuff.
They're losing the importance of the fans,
and which is sad. I believe I know Disney was the American distributor for Spirited Away, which is arguably one of my favorite Ghibli movies.
Mine too.
And
they're all really good. I don't know about
they are. As a matter of fact,
Ghibli's-
that Ghibli is what brought a lot of people into anime when I've spoken to them. Like for what Vampire did for me, Studio Ghibli was for them.
And yeah, and I can't even argue with that. I've seen that. And Ghibli movies are just so good.
Spirited Away was fantastic.
Yes.
Kiki's Delivery Service was really, really good. In fact, my daughter's got a Gigi plush that we got
Isn't
for
Howl's one of theirs?
Howl's Moving Castle was a great
Yes.
one.
Totoro.
Totoro. Princess Mononoke was a fantastic one. That one's a little bit more adult themed, but that was really good as well. My wife introduced me to a lot of them.
So, question: like you guys asked me, what was the start of your guys's foray into anime? What was the first thing that brought you guys in?
God.
I'll go
For me, it was ultimate. My best friend from high school. Her brother had gotten introduced to anime, and she got introduced through her brother, and she worked at a Suncoast, so she would just import. She would use the employee discount and privileges and order the stuff. And she came over to my house for a sleepover and brought her VHS tape of El Hazard.
Oh yeah.
And I do not remember any of it other than the gratuitous fan service, which for a pair of 15-year-olds, questionable, but whatever. When 5-year-old sister comes down the stairs, we're rushing to pause it and hoping that she doesn't see anything. That was my first introduction to anime. We then subsequently would have a falling out about a year and a half after that.
Oh, no.
And my reintroduction to anime was watching Serial Experiments Lane in college as a nursing major during exam week.
Oh, right on.
Why we thought that was a good idea, I don't know. But and then I'd go through periods where I'd watch a lot of anime because I was around people that watched anime. And then, but it was never anything I actively chose so much as I got shown what was there. And then I'd go through periods where I didn't watch any, and then it was catching up.
For me, it started off as Wednesday night game nights at a friend's house where we would play penny poker. We play Texas Hold'em. I'd usually go with probably like $1 or $2 in change, pennies, nickels, dimes, quarters. And I'd usually walk out of there with 20, 25 bucks.
Oh, right on.
And they'd always have the TV on. And it was Adult Swim block. So it was Witch Hunter Robin, followed by Inuyasha, which was the show that actually caught my attention, hence the hat. And so Inuyasha was truly my get, because the first show I saw that I paid attention to was Inuyasha, and I got hooked. Within 2-3 episodes, I was hooked. And then I started watching Witch Hunter Robin, which was on beforehand. And then it had an hour-and-a-half block that was Witch Hunter Robin, Inuyasha, Fooly Cooly. Which then opened the door to going on eBay and finding different animes. And I was like, oh, well, what's this Golden Boy about? That looks interesting. What's this show about? That kind of interesting. And then I fell out of it because met a girl, got married, life happened. And as the marriage started falling apart, we had Netflix, and I discovered Rosario Vampire on Netflix, which I think a lot of us went down the rabbit hole. Because you watch this, we recommend watching Girls Bravo.
Yep.
And then Strike Witches. And then so on and so forth, and Baka and Test, Negima. And that's what got me back into it. And then it was like, I'm watching all these shows, really enjoying it. And then that's when I happened to look into, discovering who does these voices and learning more about them on social media, Facebook, things of that nature. And the rest is history. Just here I am, many years later. Have my own talk show talking about something that I love and getting to meet some of the most fascinating and some of the most awesome people in the world.
That's awesome.
For me, I was, well, besides growing up with the occasional Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, and not realizing what it was, for me, it was my friend in high school had his birthday party and ended up being a sleepover for all the guys. And they had an anime playing in the background at the time. I wasn't paying any attention to it at the time, but ended up becoming interested in it later. And it was a show called Chrome Shelled Regios.
That was my show. That's my jam.
I know, right? And shortly afterwards, my junior year, same friend, I started driving that year, and he hadn't started driving yet. So his dad would have me come get him because it was a little bit more convenient than him taking the bus. And when we got home, went to drop him off, he would put on some stuff every now and then. Chrome Shelled Regios, I think I finished on my own.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think the second show he showed me was Shuffle.
Mm.
And
fantastic show.
And then after that, it was Kaze no Stigma, Baka and Test, Soul Eater, and just a lot of the shows that were on Netflix at the time.
I love how you mentioned Chrome Shell Regios. That show is one that I go back to often, especially because they have the show within the show. And I want to know so much more about that little show that's in there.
Yes. And also, Nina is best girl. I don't care what anyone says.
Yeah.
Come on.
It's funny. You mentioned, and I have to say it real quick before I guess you guys wrap up. You mentioned like Pokemon and things like that. When I was growing up, there was a lot of shows that were on television, and especially, of course, they had to change it for the censorship. But I didn't realize where I was watching anime, where I was watching Robotech, and I didn't realize that was an anime when I was a kid. But it didn't really get me into anime, like I said with Vampire Hunter D. But it was like Robotech. It was Ulysses 1. It was the Mighty Orbots, and was those shows that came on Saturday morning cartoons, Voltron, that I didn't realize, I was watching anime. And when I go back now to try to see, what it really actually was and, take away all the censorship, I realized like, oh my God, this had so much more going for it than what it did with the Saturday morning cartoons. I remember watching Gotcha Man back in the day and not realizing that one of the characters was a sociopath. And that's things that they cut out with Saturday morning cartoons, and you rediscovering them as an adult and really getting into the storylines of what's happening is what was inevitably, something that drew me even further into anime as I got older.
Really quickly, you mentioned censorship. Did you really notice the little edits that 4Kids did to shows like One Piece and Pokemon back in the day?
Oh, yes. Pokemon and definitely One Piece was wow. One Piece was definitely edited a lot to make it better than what it actually was. Now, mind you, it wasn't. I mean, I don't think One Piece was. I guess maybe it's because I'm desensitized because I've watched so much anime. They try to make it seem like it was less violent than what it was. They changed the color of the blood to like spit colored or something like that. And
Yep.
it was just things that they changed that didn't need to be changed. But yeah, they did it so often. They did it so much. They clothed characters that weren't clothed. They cut out scenes that they felt just shouldn't have been there. And then going back and having, and especially with One Piece with so many doggone episodes, trying to go back and watch the episodes that were edited or toned down to make it child friendly takes a lot of time to go through, and at times takes away from the story.
Yep.
And on that note, the clock is going off, but which is signifying we are just about at the end of our show. But before we let Rick go, we need him to do what we have all of our guests do. This is where you promote yourself, websites, any events coming up, where people can find you and find out more about you. We call it our shameless plugging section, and the floor is yours. Oh, as we're doing that, he's muted his mic. So I think he had.
Thank you. I'm Rick. Nerd Urbanity is my store, nerdurbanity.com. I would like you guys to come by. You know, if you want to have any questions, please ask or talk to me, or just nerd out if you would like to. We have lots of stuff from vintage toys to current toys. And I would ask that you talk to me and keep in touch with me, as I always have new stuff coming in, and I do sales, and I also do coupons, especially if anybody who reaches out and has any questions, I will actually provide those to you as well. Thank you guys so much for bringing me on the show. Hopefully you guys bring me back in after I go to the New York Toy Fair this year, which is this week, so I can tell you guys all of the cool stuff that is coming.
Yes, we would love to have you back. Let me, because right now we have like all weekends or all Sunday shows are open. We don't have any other guests that are lined up currently. So you pick a Sunday after the show that works for you to come back on and talk about that, and we can nerd out more.
And I will give you guys, I will try to keep some of the information that I have and give you guys a first look at some of the things that are coming out from the New York Toy Show that is invite only and only member only. So there are going to be some pressers that are going to be there, but there's going to be a lot of stuff that's off limits. That's only for the people who are going to be there. So I will try to give you guys some of that information.
Oh, that sounds amazing. And you can also give us your opinions on the shows that Darren gave you.
Oh my gosh, I think that this is going to be bad.
Yep. Well,
one more so than the other, maybe.
But as always, it'll be a good time.
You guys are awesome. You guys are always a good time. You guys, and thank you so much for inviting me on again.
It's always great chatting with you. Unfortunately, I've moved farther away from you than I was originally, but definitely contact, and looking forward to seeing how big Nerd Urbanity comes in the future.
Well, I will definitely make sure that I keep you guys in the loop, growing, little by little, and the bigger I get, the more fun I just think I'm gonna have. I want to remain the same grounded, individual I am, and I'm going to remain the same grounded individual I am. Customers are the most important aspect of the store and is going to remain that way.
Definitely. And thank you again for joining us.
I'm a fan, and I take care of other fans.
That's what we do.
Yes, what we do.
Until next week, when Darren, Angela, and I will be talking more random nonsense about who knows what. Keep enjoying watching the anime. If you're able to get out to can't really get out to the toy show that Rick's heading to, but we're looking forward to having him back on to find out some of the ins and outs of what's going on in the collectibles world. And we'll once we know what's going on with and when we're going to have Rick back, we'll be sure to let all of you awesome fans out there know. If you're listening to us through a streaming platform, come over to the live shows on Sunday nights on YouTube. Interactive chat. If you have questions, thank you to the chat for all the questions that you guys have had out there. They've been awesome. Love the interaction. Thank you to everybody who takes the time to check us out. It really means the world to all of us that you guys spend 2 hours out of your busy Sundays to hang out with us and just enjoy the nonsense that happens. So until next Sunday, have a wonderful week. Stay safe out there. Continue enjoying the anime world, and we'll see you again right here next Sunday for more Anime-Zing Radio.